Hi everyone, welcome back to Writing 123 Thinking, Writing and Research. I wanted to give you a quick video on the writing process. Now I want to emphasize this isn't some hard and fast rule-based system for you to memorize. On the other hand, it is a helpful way to think about um, how to go about starting from um, getting an assignment or having an idea for something you want to write all the way to finished product. Okay, and not only is it helpful, it takes writing away from the realm of sitting around waiting for inspiration and then getting blocked and feeling like, oh, I'm not a good writer or something like that, and instead puts it in the realm of learned skills and steps, almost like a recipe that once you get it down, you can do it again and again comfortably. And you'll be needing to write a number of things throughout your college career and beyond. And so I think this will be helpful. The first step we can call gathering. This is where the first thing you might do is um, brainstorm. Think of various ideas and pick one that is compelling to you and that you know you can argue, right? But then from there you go to finding sources. And this is what we've spent some time doing with your annotated bibliography. Put that there. That is an example of gathering. You're pooling together all the different resources you can find on your topic or related to your topic, or that might be helpful for you to understand your topic or to discuss it with others. This is part of entering the conversation. And we've talked in this class, in our using of the book They Say, I Say, we've talked about entering the conversation, that research isn't just putting together your poster to express your feelings in some, gymnasium somewhere, but it's dealing with those who have said things about the topic that you're going to be writing on, and then providing your own argument within that. So that's gathering. There's a lot that goes into that, but we've covered that pretty well. Well, now you've got your sources and things like that. The next thing you're going to want to do is take all that raw material and shape it. Now, for our purposes, we're calling that an outline. What this means is that you take the ideas that you have, and maybe some of the ideas you already have in reading your sources and responding to them, and you begin to put them into a coherent structure. Now, as you're aware, I mean, even what I'm doing now, actually this is a good example, I'll just use the one I'm already making. This is an outline. It doesn't have to be like this, certainly, and it doesn't have to be in the traditional, Roman numeral and then capital letter, etc., etc. But what it should do, and you can see it here, my overall point here is that this topic is called gathering. Now I could have shown that it was governing the rest of these things in any number of ways, but it's at the top and it's labeled 1, and you don't get down to 2 till here. So you know that these things, see my cursor there, these things all go under this, but they're not just randomly kind of blobbed in there. It's kind of in order, and then this, the annotated bibliography and entering the conversation, these things are underneath the finding sources node. The point is, and I could have made this even more clear, right? The point is that all these things are arranged hierarchically. That means that the thing above it governs it. As you go in with indentation, these things are part of this, and this is part of this, and all four of these are part of the writing process. But that idea of it being hierarchical is very important, and it's something that you might struggle with. You might start with just a list of 10 things. Well, start by, here's a good way to do it. start by grouping, just purely grouping things, maybe your sources into three different categories. Well, these three sources have to do specifically with this part of my argument. These three are just background information, and these three are arguments being made that are opposed to the argument that I'm going to make. So you have your three different categories, and then you start organizing them further. And then as you write, um, those things are already in a sort of coherent structure. Now, I'm going to give you some more information on some tips for taking notes, not in this little video, and when I do, we'll talk more about that. But for now, shaping involves doing exactly this with your outline, putting your argument into a coherent form. Now, I'm going to say a little more about ways to make your paper writing easier with your outline here. As you can see here, if you do this, it'll be a little longer, your initial outline for your paper, but if you do this sort of thing, well then what can you do? Let's say that you're reading through, books on the writing process, that, your research paper is on the writing process itself. Well, you read Smith says something about it, so, and you want to put in this quote, don't write your ideas on the walls because your parents will get mad at you. I don't know. I've got 5 kids. That came to mind. Anyway, this is Jones. Found that on page 23, right? Now I'm just making up this source. But what I'm getting at is, and Smith also is another one of your sources on brainstorming. Okay, now this is kind of a hybrid. Stay with me here. I'm talking about the writing process, but I'm using it to talk about how to use your outline. Okay, but that's part of the process, right? If you do this with your notes, if you go through and let's say you have a bunch of notes, and what I like to do, maybe color code them. Whoops, use my mouse better. Text. I know how to use this, don't worry. Okay, let's say I went through my separate document full of notes, and as I went, I color-coded them on, oh, this one's about this one's about this. Well, these would have both, in that other document, these would have both been green, or whatever random color I chose. And then all I do is go through and I find all the green ones, and I copy and paste them under ideas about brainstorming from my sources. Okay, I'll probably go back and redo some of this in the note-taking video because I don't want to make it too complicated here. But it's important, as we're talking about the outline, to mention that. Okay. So remember, that was under finding sources. Okay, so the point is your outline, all of that to say, is hierarchical. And I've used the word govern several times. It's kind of a technical designation, but it also, besides being if there's any programmers among us, the language you might be familiar with, it's this word archical means to govern. You have a oligarchy. Well, that's a certain kind of government, but also, well, anyway, I'll back off of the Greek. Okay, so gathering. Get it all together, shape it, put it into a form. Now, this is an important order. Now we're going to be drafting. Why shape before drafting? Well, I'll tell you why. If you don't put it in order ahead of time, what you're going to find yourself doing is just kind of saying a bunch of random things. In this shaping step, if you do all of your critical thinking, not all of it, you know what I mean? If you do a lot of your critical thinking ahead of time there, you're not in the midst of writing. You're not prone to writer's block. You're just moving these pieces around. You're not committed. You can change the order of things and this sort of thing. But once you're writing paragraphs, it's going to be a lot harder to feel that flexibility. I strongly, strongly recommend you always do an outline before you begin writing. And of course, I'm requiring you to do it for this class because it's so helpful. And make as extensive an outline as you can, because then all you're going to do is go back and write to your outline. So remember, we had this set up as an outline with some sources and some notes in there. Well, if you do that throughout your whole outline, then